I'm Lauren Kelly. Nice to join you all in this time together. As always, I do have an agenda, so I will share that. Oh, I don't have my two screens set up, but I think we'll do okay anyway. So as always, here is my email, and when I published this document to our website, I will put our recording link there, and the same for all the past agendas are available. Just a note, we just have one roundtable left for this year. November 25th will be in the morning time of 10 a.m. And then we'll be into 2026, which is wild. The fall 2025 core course for basic cataloging has been added to the continuing education calendar. The registration opens 4 weeks before that class, which starts on October 7th this year. So in September next month, we will see that open. Spread the word if there are people, staff at your library that would benefit from that class. It does tend to fill up, but we try to have a good large group for that. I just barely added the 2025 advanced cataloging class recording down here. So I'm going to get rid of that bullet. Those are my department type things. And as per usual, just so that we have more of a spirit of collaboration and learning about our other catalogers here in the state, we can go around and please share your name, what library you're at, and what ILS you are using. If you don't have microphone capability, that is fine. Go ahead and just put your name, what library you're at, and what ILS you use in the chat. Otherwise, I might call on our list of people here. So we have Carrie first. Awesome. Pawnee Derby from Rockingham Free Public Library is here. Julie from South Burlington Public Library using VerSource. Carrie from Manchester using Koha. Thank you. And we have Janet.
Hi there, I'm Janet. I'm from Rutland, and we use Koha as part of the Catamount Consortium.
Awesome. And I see Jess is with us. Koha as well. Awesome. And you're at Burnham in Colchester. And let's see. I think that's our whole group. Pawnee is using Koha as well. So a lot of Koha libraries today, one Verso, including me at the state as well using Verso. Thanks, it always gives a bit of background and context for our cataloging projects. Okay, so for some news and resource updates, something came across my email that I thought was worth sharing out. Effective July 1st, so this is a little bit of past news, the Library of Congress has announced that for the cataloging in publication data, the CIP data, the SIP data, that block of good cataloging information in new books, Dewey Decimal is no longer going to be listed there, which is definitely a little bit of a loss. I've been noticing more and more that cataloging and publication data is not always included in new books, but it was very helpful to have Dewey Decimal pre-assigned for those new books. And kind of this coupled with OCLC getting rid of their classify website where you could put in an ISBN, and you could see all these different libraries, what they assigned for Dewey Decimal. It's not great. It seems like we're losing resources in order to apply this system of classification. I still have not found a great replacement for the OCLC Classify website, but Library Thing is a good resource, and I am happy to click into it and we can play around in there if that would be helpful to people. Let me know and we can go through how you can find Dewey Decimal Classification similarly to what that OCLC site did, but it is different and a replacement has not come. So as always, I will keep a lookout for that. Also from the Library of Congress, I noticed that there was an announcement back in April about not updating the subject heading, classification, and other vocabulary updates being posted as they were coming out, as the group was deciding on changes, but they're now posting it on a website that has a $375 paywall. So that's not great. Before we could list these tentative subject changes. And I always tried to include them as a reminder that these vocabularies do change and that there is a process. It seems like, me editorializing a bit of erosion of that process. But it will be interesting to see what continues to change and what may not. But it's an interesting move to not be transparent about the way that our subject headings are changing. So if you're looking for those announcements, you will no longer be able to see them without this subscription to their classweb.org website. Some good news, Library of Congress does still have their subject authorities database, which is used a lot by me. I talk about it a lot in my cataloging classes. They did update the interface and they've replaced the kind of older one that you had to click through a lot. I'm also happy to kind of walk through those changes if that would be helpful for people. But always I try and link to this critical cataloging roundup, which has new articles, webinars, news, blog posts. There's a lot to discover about what's going on kind of nationally, but I thought I would pull out kind of those Library of Congress things. For our cataloging news or resources update. And if people ever come across things out in the wild that you find interesting, please send them my way and I can include them in the agenda. Let me check the chat real quick. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah, so let's demo some of those things that I just talked about. Let me open it up and then I will share my screen. So the first thing that I just mentioned is using Library Thing to kind of either compare or find and apply Dewey Decimal Classification to items that you have. So we will share this window. Okay, can people see this? Yes, it looks like it should be good. Okay, so this website, I haven't spent a ton of time really digging into every feature that it has, but generally, if you do a search up in this right-hand corner, I'm just going to grab a book that I have close by at hand, Carl Hyacин's Chomp. It's a pretty common book. I'll just scan the ISBN. Granted, it is older, so your results may vary with a newer book. But here's this book here. It does it almost works like a librarian's bulked up version of Goodreads, where there's scores, there's reviews. But then on this page, if you go over to the right under this quick facts, you'll often see, okay, this is the Dewey Decimal classification. There's also Library of Congress classification, which can be really helpful. There's also good ideas for subject headings, uh, and you can see that down here as well in the tag section. A description which could be used for a summary, a 520 field. Like I said, this is crowdsourced, so kind of the authority of this information may vary, but I do believe it's a lot of librarians. So there's some good things to kind of go off of. There's a classification tag, which I think, yeah, just brings you to a larger, more expansive kind of subject headings page, but then also genres. And then here you can see that there are some differences in the way that people have uh, classified this book, which is a little bit more similar to how that OCLC site functioned. Not exactly quite as streamlined, but it's definitely here and can be a good place to start or to base your decision on. Um, yeah, and then it does the same with Library of Congress. Oh, and it also has BISAC subject headings. So it's a good resource. It does have a lot of bells and whistles, but uh, in lieu of not having a more streamlined site. Awesome. Julie has some experience using this site quite a bit. That's great. Yeah, I really hadn't used it much, but just in the quest for something different than OCLC. Julie, do you mind sharing, do you use it mostly for classification or for subject headings? You look up the Dewey Decimal number all the time on it. Great, awesome. Hi, Sarah, welcome. We're going through just some cataloging news. All right, and then the second link, the changed interface for the Library of Congress subject authorities. I will pull that up. Oh, and I should mention that while we were talking about library thing, their layout for the Dewey Decimal system is very, very visual, which can be very helpful for visual learners. I can share that real quick as well. Yeah, so right now this is just set to Vermont, but it can be helpful to think about the layout, this kind of idea of either a tree system or branching off points. I have found that this website is really nice for laying out counties, which can be a very specific, kind of troublesome to to nail down, okay, which number is really going to relate to what county. This website lays it out super easily and it breaks it down to that level, especially for our public libraries that have local Vermont collections. If you're in Caledonia County or Lamoille County, you share a 974.33 as opposed to just the 974.3 for Vermont. So this can be extra helpful. And I often point people to this page when they ask about their local collections and wanting county level. It doesn't quite go down to town level, unfortunately. Like if I were to click on Bennington, that's where it ends. Potentially someday, I think it would be fun to have a Vermont specific classification system, probably based on Dewey for ease, that does do towns, but not there yet for easily accessible and already pre-made. So future projects potentially. Let me check the chat. Oh, awesome. Yes, Julie has put the link to that in the chat, which I will add to the agenda so that we have it. Thank you. Anything else about library thing before I talk about the authorities database? All right, let's talk about the authorities database. So this is the new interface for it. I do like that this online catalog, if you open up this, it takes you right to the Library of Congress, obviously catalog. Just going to put in the book that I have in hand, Chomp. It's nice to be able to click into this MARC record and see how things are laid out. Granted, keeping in mind that the MARC record created here, as with the cataloging and publication data, is done pre-publication, so there could be discrepancies between the item that you have in hand and what is either listed in this MARC record. For example, this one might have it. Yes, this one does have 290 pages, although it doesn't have pages spelled out because a lot of these records do not get retroactively changed. So bearing that in mind, when you use the catalog itself, but in terms of the authority, we have subject headings, we have names for our 100s or our 600s or our 700s, the way that names should appear. And those are really the most commonly used two kind of vocabularies that we're digging into. You do have some options in terms of how you search with containing all of what you put into the box or just what it begins with or containing an exact phrase. The other day we had an advanced cataloging class and we talked a little bit about this site afterwards and the example was turtles as a subject that someone was after. So similar to how the old interface worked, you search your term and then you have your columns as a results list. You have your heading over here on the left, the amount of bib records that it's kind of referenced to or linked to. If it is the authorized subject heading, if it has references is listed here, and then what thesaurus it's actually coming from. So our first result is from the Library of Congress Children's and Young Adult subject headings. Our next is from the Library of Congress subject headings. And these entries are listed kind of not necessarily under Library of Congress subject headings, but rather the authority heading, the LCSH authority headings. But you can see that this is actually hyperlinked,
Yeah. That
whereas the other examples are not, but also we can see that these really are the same terms. They're referenced in the same amount of records. But if you click into it, it'll have the heading up top. It'll also have, it depends on how much information is included in this top box. Sometimes it lists the scope. Sometimes it lists like more so a definition. Here it's saying what this term should be used for. But if you click this button, it will lead you down to the references, which is just listed under the actual MARC authority record for this term. Typically, if it's listed in a 150, it can go in a 650. If it's a 100, it's probably a name and should be used in a 600 or a 700. So it can correspond that way. If it's 155, it's usually a genre term. Just a helpful kind of tip about the way that it's laid out with these authority records. A little bit different than our standard book MARC records, but similar. So we have, similarly to the old interface, it would list broader terms. We have reptiles, which takes you to the listing for reptiles, and then it has a ton of narrower terms. So from this one place, if you know that your book is on sea turtles specifically, you could include sea turtles, reptiles, and turtles. There are your 3 subject headings. Done. Let's click into sea turtles. It brings us back to this results list, but here we see Library of Congress subject authority heading. We want to click into that. It's referencing a lot of MARC records, and it's the link that we can click into. So use for the description of this Latin name and marine turtles. Here it's listed under 150 sea turtles. This is the way it appears. And there are broader terms and narrower terms still, meaning green sea turtles. So that's using it for subject. If we are, just because I have Carl Hyacin right here, let's search for him. It's still, should we put last name first? All right, so we see that this is the authorized heading. This is in the name authority headings. This is what we want. It is a link, so you can click into it. Interesting, it has his name listed in other languages. It's also letting you know what he's known for. Scrolling down, there's no dates associated with this name. It's simply just Hyacinth, Carl. And there's no references in terms of broader or narrower terms, just because he's one person and it doesn't look like a lot of pseudonyms are listed. It does have, those alternative, or rather just non-English representations of his name. So questions about the authorities database from Library of Congress? Those were just, quick examples. Yeah, so updated interface that we looked into. All right, I'm going to pull up the agenda again. The other day on the listserv, there was a conversation, or rather a question about being able to narrow down search results in Clover to just see all the playaways that may be available throughout the state. I had a great conversation with Carolyn Mark, who is our consultant for interlibrary loan and government services, but interlibrary loan realm. And we were talking about how the Clover interface may not capture everything because of the way that there are discrepancies between cataloging. So it always stands that we should remind ourselves that whether we're working in a consortium or not, making sure that we're kind of consistently doing things is good and helpful and very much impacts interlibrary loan and the way that results come back. Playaways are just a very specific example of that. And, is the term playaway used? Is it categorized as an audiobook or an audiobook player? That was a kind of interesting thing to see, the number of results that were coming back as just audiobook as opposed to audiobook on audiobook player as the item type. I don't have, a kind of best practice thing or agreed upon, preference for the way that it's cataloged, but it was just a real life impact of the way that we catalog. So I thought I would remind everyone that it might be good to bring this up on your consortium level or not, up to you, but good reminder from a real use case. Another thing that came up on the listserv was barcode scanners. This is a question that does come up fairly frequently, you know, once a year at least, it seems like. And so I just collected some of the responses so that they are recorded there and can get shared out. I don't have any successes or any other conundrums, so I'm happy to open up the table for everyone to share if they have any successes or conundrums, questions that they would like to ask the group, or to just be put onto the agenda, and maybe we can revisit them later once people have time to think about them. Or feel free to put anything in the chat and I will read it aloud so that it gets in our recording. But that's the end of what I had prepared to bring myself to the table. So let me know what's on your mind, how things are going. Yeah, any questions, feel free. As always, there's a raise hand function up at the top, or just unmute and jump in or use the chat. I know we're a small group today. I hope that I would assume that summer reading has wrapped up, which is always good. Not that catalogers tend to interface entirely with that, but I know that that can be a big all hands on deck situation. So well, it seems like we don't have that much to bring today with our smaller group. I will mention again, oh, yes, there is something here. An item record for a library of things shelving location, how to add. Okay, so is this a question about a mark record for a non-book item, or is this a question about adding library of things as a shelving location? Adding a shelving location for library of things is going to be based on your ILS. You may need to reach out to, yeah, adding library of things as a shelving location. My best advice off the top of my head is that you will want to reach out to whoever your catalog. You said you were in Koha. So depending on what consortium you're in, you might want to reach out to your coordinators and they'll know if they need to reach out to Bywater or if they can do it themselves. But that is, they'll have that ability to add a shelving location for you. Yeah, in terms of item records, there's a couple of different resources that I've located that kind of break down some non-traditional items. So if you have things that you would like to make mark records for and really don't know where to start, send me an email and I'm happy to share some things. There was a session 2 years ago, I think at this point, on non-traditional items. Perhaps in the spring, we can do a revamped version of that. That would be good for CE. Just a maybe 1 hour session on non-traditional items and kind of what mark fields we need to pay attention to. Yeah, that would be good if that's something that would be of use. Right. Yeah, I was just plugging that advanced cataloging session. It was book focused, but it definitely would play into cataloging non-traditional, non-book items. And the recording is on Niche Academy and it's linked in this agenda. So please check that out if you would like. Uh, there's a little bit of technical difficulty. So there's about 6 minutes in the middle. It is noted on Niche Academy where you can just skip to. Um, yeah, always fun when technical difficulty occurs. But we didn't have that today, so I'm glad for that. If there aren't any more questions or conundrums or successes that people want to share out, we can close the meeting for today, and hopefully we will see you in November for the next cataloging roundtable. It's another morning session on the 25th of November. But as always, you have my email. We can add things to the agenda, or I'm happy to take questions uh, as they come. I see Janet's typing, so I'm not going to stop the recording yet. You're welcome. Thank you for coming. Thanks for cataloging work, and we will see you next time. I will stop the recording now. Thanks all. Be well.